Joining me now to discuss this, NBC News senior national politics reporter Henry Gomez, who just spoke with the vice president on board Air Force Two. Henry, huge congratulations. It is a great get. You got a number of headlines, including the vice president making some news on Elon Musk. We were just talking about the Doge cuts. What did he say to you about this?
So, Kristen, we talked to the vice president about the cuts that Elon Musk has orchestrated and overseen at Doge. And what the vice president acknowledged to us was there were mistakes. He noted that Elon Musk himself has acknowledged mistakes, and the mistakes are okay as long as you correct them. He also went on to acknowledge, in a gentler tone than we've heard from the president and from Elon Musk himself, that not all federal workers are bad, that there are many federal workers out there who are hard workers, who are good workers, who probably don't deserve to lose their jobs. He also, though, said that there are some that are just collecting a check, meaning they're just taking a paycheck without actually having earned it. So there was a little bit of a shift there between him and Elon Musk, the hard-charging, swashbuckling Elon Musk tone, whereas J.D. Vance is acknowledging, hey, mistakes were made, we have to correct them, and we have to acknowledge that not all federal employees are lazy or fraudsters, which is the word that Elon Musk used to often describe them.
Really fascinating. And he gave you some news also about TikTok. A lot of interest in this. Henry, what did he have to say about TikTok?
Yeah, so the president has tasked J.D. Vance with helping to broker a TikTok deal by April. Vance told me that he is very confident that the framework of a deal will be in place by April 5th, which is the deadline for this. Now, there's been talk about possibly being another extension to get this done. Vance feels that the framework of a deal will be in place, something that will transfer TikTok to a U.S.-based company that will keep U.S. interests and national security in mind. He did mention that there may still need to be some I's to be dotted and T's to be crossed. He doesn't know if it will merit an extension to finalize all that, but he's very confident that come April 5th, we are going to have the parameters of a deal in place that the administration will be happy with.
Well, it's right around the corner, so that's pretty significant. Let's talk about 2028, if we dare. Not around the corner. A couple of years still till 2028. But you did ask him about this. What did he say to you?
You know, I asked him because the question is, like, does Trump view him as his natural successor? And so I flipped it a bit, and I said, do you view yourself as Trump's natural successor? And he told me the story about an election night, how when it finally sunk in that he'd been elected vice president, he felt, you know what, I could do this, I could do a good job as VP and nothing else, and it would be enough for me. I'd be happy. So he's dodging the question clever and creative ways, as always. But he kept talking about how, for him, as long as he focuses on the job for the next few years, the rest of it will take care of itself. If he does a good job, it'll take care of him politically. It'll take care of the country the way that he and Trump want to take care of the country. So he's not ruling anything out, but he's also not breaking any news. It's clear that he thinks about these things. Of course he does. He's a human being. But, he's trying to say that he's focused on the job because that, more than anything, will determine whether or not he's a viable presidential candidate.
Well, it sounds like a great conversation. I look forward to reading the entire thing. Henry Gomez, thank you so much. Congratulations again on a great get.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.